once again, and welcome to another Kaiso Talk. And of course, every Wednesday at this time, we talk Kaiso. Yes, indeed. We talk to the artists and, of course, everything Kaiso. This evening, we're, of course, last weekend, the Kaiso Bads, they opened the tent. This weekend, the classic Calypso tent will be opened. So we're getting into the thing. Yeah, the tents are opening, the Kaisos are coming in, and they sung in really good. And we're hoping that this year we would get a lot more recorded work. We know it's a real challenge for the Kaisonians. We know it's tough, but if we get the Kaisos, we can play it and keep it in the ears of people. All right, but we also encourage you to go to the tents, listen to the Kaisonians, enjoy the performances and get a real sense of what is happening. The Kaisonian have a way of, bringing out a lot, things that you forget probably happened years. You listen to a Kaiso and it brings everything back to you. So as events happen, as things unfold, the Kaisonians, they take that, they package it with some music, and of course, history is written. So tonight, Val is with me as usual, and also joining us from the classic Kaiso tent, Mr. Elvis Moraine. And of course, I think everyone is familiar with the name, a gentleman who's been heavily involved in education and of course a renowned Kaiso judge. So we have a lot to talk about, all right? And of course, I have a lot to ask Mr. Moraine, but he could bat. I think he opened the batting well. So it's a good time to welcome them. And Val, let me welcome you first. It's good to have you back. Hopefully, folks, so we should be joined by Rootsman Kelly. I hope he makes it. And of course, a little later on, Sour Serpent. And again, we welcome our viewers on GBN Television 711, our friends on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, and of course, our listeners on K105 FM. Val, it's good to be back. How are you doing?
Yes, good evening, Grenada, PT Martinique, Cairo, and all where this program is being heard of the Windward dials. So that to our listeners on GBN 711 FM, good evening once again, and I'm glad to be here.
Yes, indeed, and it gives me pleasure also, Val, to invite my homeboy, Mr. Elvis Moraine. Mr. Moraine, how are you doing? It's good to have you. Welcome to Kaiso Talk, and we have a lot to talk about. Yeah, your microphone is muted.
Right, so good night to everyone. Godfrey, it's a pleasure having me on the program. Val also it's a pleasure interacting with you. Godfrey, somehow I'm not hearing you. Your song is sort of muffled.
You're not okay. Let me see if I can work on that. I hope is that any better? I was just checking my levels here.
It's a little better now.
Oh, okay. So maybe my levels were a little up. So hopefully that can be rectified. All right, let's see if that can work well.
Yeah, it's much better this time.
Okay.
So it's good to have me, and anything Calypso, I'm excited.
Right.
Not just about Kaiso Classic, but of course, any good conversation surrounding Calypso.
Definitely. And actually, you've given me a good opening. When did that love for Kaiso hit you?
Man, many years ago.
Uh-huh.
I've been around Calypso all my life. I mean, I know what it is to listen Calypso throughout the region and the radio.
Mm-hmm.
Following Calypso for many years, whether it was Barbados, St. Vincent at the time, you listened Calypso. There was no video at the time, you listened audio. The March guy you're following, So I have always had the love for this, for many years. You have to appreciate at the time too that Calypso was very much alive.
Indeed.
It was almost, you can walk to go to the tent. And not only that, on the carnival day, it was not uncustomary to see a band and a truck playing calypso. So I follow calypso. I go quite a few places. I'm having to walk back home. I remember going to calypso show in Munich, and you have to walk back home. So I've been around for this, a lot of years. I also been around the junior calypso, maybe around the same. As a matter of fact, around the same time with Eddie and so on, because it was a group of us. Mm-hmm. The thing is that Eddie was a Calypsonian, so everybody remember Eddie. But of course, we were the people who started that junior concept, of calypso. As a matter of fact, I used to write songs and I used to do presentations. I used to MC for the tent at that time. I'm not saying that I was good at that, but
interesting.
but so I've been around calypso. A lot of years. I remember I was part of I think it was I was 19. Around Postway and then I was part of management.
Yeah.
At some point, so that was my first.
That's by TR. When I say by TR, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Been around management, and so I remember that. So I've been around for a bit, and I really have a passion for calypso. So after when I came out of being directly involved, as a matter of fact, I coordinate presentations for a lot of Calypsonians, the Magical Night. Mm-hmm. And then after I decided, I'll try something new. So I go into the judging of calypso, which is something I enjoy and I like. So it's something I always passionate about. Before going back into management of calypso, I was instrumental in working with judges. We try very hard to get an association up and running. I think that is still not where it want to be. But of course, so I always, go to, even though when I was judging, go to the workshops and encourage, people, because it's something that you have to always hone your skills. It's not, you can't just sit and expect for a man just come out of retirement and feel you go and judge. You haven't do so at all. And things have evolved, and while it's still a very subjective process, but you have to try very hard to get, to a stage where, you can't please everybody. But at the end of the day, you feel, well, look, what I've done is good enough. And I think that's where we need to get. As I always say to fellow judges, listen to me. Once you can defend your score in honesty, that's what it is. You have to be able to defend your score in honesty and not to feel intimidated about it. So basically, Godfrey, I've been around this thing for a while, and I love this thing back. So I am back now into a new role, trying to see how I could help, and not just Kaiso Classic, but I want to see Calypso grow. I admire some of even some of the Calypso, like Scholar and Jerry and so on, who are actually in tent management. It's not an easy thing to sing. Well, Godfrey, you know that, and manage tent.
Definitely.
So I still believe, we have people who need to, like me, or others who can assist and let the guys come in and sing the song. Let us see where they are for now, but we can assist, with quality management. It's something that I think I would like to see, not just for Kaiso Classic, but I think throughout, the management and the support. And if we can work together to improve that, for the good of artists and Calypsonian, to me, that's what we want to do. And that's my full commitment to this.
Right, wonderful. Val?
Yeah, well, I have some big stone and thing to tell behind Elvis.
Hold on. Just before you go, Val, he said something, and I chuckled, and I'm getting to realize it is probably part of the culture of St. David's Calypsonians. You realize once they begin, they had to walk far because Eddie had to walk from Westerhall. He had to walk from Munich.
Eddie was here, and in his his discussion, he talked about those journeys and to sing calypso, and here is Elvis speaking the same thing. But as a calypso judge, one of the things is that judges are there to qualify songs, to tell you whether things are rising or falling. and pointing the society in a particular direction. So you are charged with this responsibility to qualify calypsos on a yearly basis. But you also have a connection with the classic calypso. Yeah?
No, hold on, Val. I'm not judging for a while now. I've been judging from since 2017.
Oh, all right. So that is why you can now give all your time to classic calypso without wearing the judge's hat.
But as a matter of fact, I'll tell you this, I was very much integral of the judges, that we had a chat. And I had full disclosure. When I was going to get into management, I said, listen, guys, I'm into management. You could remove from the chat. Because, I didn't want to seemingly feel as, okay, look, I am there, I know they have a lot of respect for me. So my thing was I decided to take a new rule, a new chapter. I'm not saying I would never get back into judging, but for now, I want to do something different, so that is where I get to management.
All right. So right now you're bringing your judging expertise, the hat you're wearing, into the classic calypso space. Are you part of the personnel that selects the calypsonians to come into the tent on a yearly basis? You're part of that arrangement?
Of course, I am part of that. But for now, we're trying to build a core. For me, it's not about selection every year. It's about building a brand. So what I told the guys is, let's do this thing as a family. So if you notice, most of the calypsonians last year, they are still with us. They say we did some transition, but at the same time, it's about building the craft. Because, while I'm not an expert in everything, there are some areas I can offer some assistance, building the artists themselves. The sad reality, though, that sometimes the season, but for a number of reasons, is not long enough to get calypsonians to really hone the craft by way of presenting themselves to an audience. So for instance, I remember, as I said, a long time, we used to follow calypso in almost every parish. So at least I have seen calypsonians who everybody laugh at the opening night, and by the time they come to the third show, they have elevated to a level where they are giving, seasoned calypsonians serious competition. So we are a place now where we are not seeing a lot of growth because the more experienced people come out because of the level and the lack thereof of the experience in terms of having a number of shows. They can go in, that's why you call competition badge, they can go in and get through. But you find someone who might have to work a bit, increase their confidence, increase their craft. Most of the time they get left. And that's a sad thing that we're not seeing growth. And of course, a lot of young people staying, in terms of the whole calypso thing. So what we need to do is to have that level where we can allow a stage, a consistent stage, where calypsonian can be over there, building their confidence, getting competition ready. Because at the end of the day, most calypsonians don't get into this for joke, they get it for competition, serious competition.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So where you can really hone your skill to a level that you can compete with the most seasoned guys. And that's the sad reality where we find ourselves now. So as I said, going back to the question, we are more trying to build a brand around, some folks. We also are endeavoring at some point to usher into a junior structure component of the tent, that we would safely see the graduation over the years into these guys coming to seasoned practitioners.
Mm-hmm. All right. So you're saying that classic calypso, part of its mandate now is to keep a stable, let's say, of artists, and nurture them as they grow to the kind of calypsonian that you think they can grow into top flight calypsonians. Quite a commendable effort there. I hope that it is that you are successful. And within your stable, how many calypsonians do you think you should keep within that fold?
Well, we could look at clearly, because as they say, a tent is really 10 calypsonians. Currently, we have 16 Calypsonians, and I see myself building around the core of 10, 10 Calypsonian, and let me just pause it here, Val and Godfrey. It's not an easy task to hone Calypsonians who are seasoned, who are in the ways and the fashion, to get them easily to change things. And I could say that, frankly speaking, most of the time, Calypsonians more focus on, mind you, I'm not saying that the judges sometimes don't, always get it right, but they're more focused on blaming the judges for them not moving forward or them not placing at a certain level in position, unlike looking at themselves. So I am saying you have to look at yourself, look at also the adjudicators. So you take a holistic view to it. So there are people who feel, okay, look, man, I gone to this, I'm good. And they feel I'm good like that, so I don't have to change anything. So that's what I'm saying to you. I've not really met that so far in the tent, but I'm saying to you that you'll find when you have a group of seasoned Calypsonians who have been around for a while, it's not easy to have them gravitate from what they know, So that is why, and I think the spirit of getting young Calypsonians into the fold is something good, because what we want to see is how do we leave this art form better than we have met it. And that is my goal, because you want to see growth, right? We want to see growth. We're not getting younger, and we want to see young people who can mature into the kind of Calypsonian that can continue to see the art form grow. And that is what to me, I am focused on. That's the kind of message I'm sending to the guys, helping to work. I wish we get to a stage where, as we establish some of the younger Calypsonians, we can have some of the senior guys willing to mentor, some of the young Calypsonians. So at least, and not in some of the bad ways, because Calypso don't always have all the good ways. But, of course, some of the positive that can help them to grow, and to continue to build the brand as Calypsonians and as well as the art form.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Every time you select a winner, Elvis, so that in 2024 you had a winner, that sets a standard for people to aim at, so that Calypsonians who are out there take note of the winning song, the artist, and they want to do something close to that to come and win the next year. So what they are measuring 2024 and what wins, and try to appropriate some aspect of that, maybe in topic or style or something, and come and present something like that can win. So that both as judge and in terms of music, what you select as the winning song sends a very strong message in terms of what is the ideal that the judges are looking for. And it may not be the best song in terms of music and a particular new style, so that somebody who's presenting a really brilliant new style of song might get left out and mightn't even make the final. But something else that is very traditional and not too musical might win. But the signal you send as a judge is that this is what we are looking for, and somehow you have a kind, with some people, a kind of capitulation in terms of progress, right? What do you have to say about that, Elvis?
Well, I would say no and yes. I'll tell you why. Because and Godfrey to that, like if we get to mirror that against sports, you have years when you have low years where the compositions are not that level. So I don't really judge. I would never ask a Calypsonian to compare. But what I would tell them to do is to look at the criteria and hone your craft. Because There are years when you go into a competition, and why you don't prejudge, but you say, boy, listen to me. This competition is tough. Go in it, anybody could win. And there are years you go and you say, no, unless this man messed up really, he has the nod. So there are years when you have stiff competition in terms of, and I'm talking about quality, because you can have stiff competition in nonsense too. Because if everybody is so good, the year is nonsense, and that's what it is. So my thing is about looking at it, and not just, well, I wouldn't just say look at your craft just in comparison to whom, but you also look at the region. You understand? Because you have to begin to understand, and I mean, technology has brought a lot of things to the fore to us. You have to be, as a judge, as a Calypsonian, you have to be following Calypso. You have to be looking at what's happening throughout the region where Calypso is concerned. You have to look at competitions. I mean, I sometimes sadden me when I hear a Calypso might say to you, oh, I'm not looking at, I don't look at Calypso, I don't look at competition, but you want to compete. You understand? You would learn something from that. So my thing, while yes, you would want to look at it, I would caution to say that if it's a competition, if a year that you find is really hard, you have good Calypso, excellent performance, yeah. But otherwise, if not, then you want to look at something, set the bar, because every year you should try to increase the bar. Because I'll tell you something, likewise, this, funny, when we look at this, and you made the point earlier, but I want to zero in on it, because you talk about performance. No, judging Calypso and Calypso is not about a song. It's not a song. It's that you're judging a performance. You see, people just feel that, oh, well, look, I have a big song. But like, you have a big song, and don't carry your big song and see where you're going. So it's about judging a performance. It's a performance, right? I sometimes hear people make that error, right? So for example, and that's my disadvantage you have. So your song is recorded, you play it, your song is playing all over the airwaves, and people learn your song word for word. And the night of competition, you change around a verse, or you change a few words, and people say, oh, you forget your song. But that is the advantage you had before, when you had a full season of Calypso. So you improve your song. Sometimes the song you start with, by way of content, lyrics, it changed completely, because people giving you feedback. People say, boy, look, come up, diehard Calypsonian. They may not be singing, but they can give you all the good advice, and you build your craft, and you get a proper song. So as you go through the rungs, as we call it, you come out with a proper song. So I am saying here is something that we have to begin to look at. And yes, people sometimes say, well, it's a big song, but we have to get to a place where you're judging a performance on the night. And it's not about what you know, and like man would say, okay, look, the song system wasn't good, the mix wasn't good, but you see, you know the song. I know the song, but you're judging on the night. And these are the things Calypsonians have to embrace themselves with. Try to improve. I mean, listen to me. I was telling my guys last year, there was a big conversation about, oh, who feel cheated, who feel whatever. And I said to them, you know what? Just go back and start to take notes, because that's your most creative period, when you feel aggrieved. You can write, you can respond to a song, and you can, if some great Calypsonians will tell you that the best period for them in terms of getting ideas to compose is immediately after Carnival. So you start putting ideas together, especially if you feel aggrieved, especially if you feel like you were cheated. You get creative ideas, and you start moving forward. So I am saying it's not just a clear prescription, but of course we have to begin to look at ourselves, know our strengths too, because there are guys who can write a Calypso, but you can't sing that Calypso because it's not you. It's about character. You understand? There are certain Calypsonians that can fit well with humor, and they'll get through. They'll be strong. And you have guys who can write humor and fall flat. You have guys who are good in political commentary, and that's a forte. So you have to know what works for you, right? Because all the songs, well composed, well performed, is even Steven in the competition. So I am saying is about looking at all of the components and working through.
Elvis, let me ask something. You made a point earlier, which kind of resonated a bit, and you mentioned that Calypsonians, for example, in competition, a lot of times they focus or they spend a lot of time blaming judges, and I know that I've heard it, but let me ask you though, during your tenure as a judge, after competition, have any Calypsonians come to you, let's say with the score sheet and sort of have a discussion and question why they were scored X or why they were scored Z for any part of the criteria, to sort of get a better understanding of why they did not place where they hoped to?
Well, maybe Godfrey, not with a score sheet, but I've had people who come to me, and question certain things, right? And of course, you give rationale, for it. I mean, some men don't really agree, and some men not necessarily this score sheet that I had, but that people reference, of course, things that seem to be inconsistent. For example, I have known Calypsonians come to me, and that wasn't me per se, and they were saying that, look, you score me X, Y, Z in melody, but the comment doesn't match with what you say.
I've heard that, yes. Mm-hmm.
So the comment says very good, but when you look at the range of the score, it's not even very good. You understand? So those things, I have had people coming to me to talk about these things, and this is justifiable so, because of course, I can't hold a Calypsonian at fault if they realize that your comment is not consistent with the score.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, that is a big red flag. So there's no question about that. So I have had that, Godfrey, and something I always encourage Calypsonians to do, and I have a few Calypsonians who would always try, they may not be at the entire duration of the workshops, but they try to be there. And so they add, some value to it by sharing experiences as well. But I remember, I think I don't know who was the CEO at the time, Spice Master, I'd encourage them to have a forum, respectable so, where the judges and Calypsonian alone can sit down and chat, about, okay, look this, and get an appreciation as to where things have gone and why. Because, something Godfrey always laugh. I always tell Calypsonian, even somewhere when I could agree with some of the comments that they make, I said, but you know what, you can't judge yourself. Choose what you want to do.
Right.
Either you want to judge or you want to perform, right? And because at the end of the day, it's about us trying. The sad thing is about this competition, because Calypso would grow if there's no competition. But of course, that's what it is. And of course, there's a lot of investment into Calypso. I mean, it's not easy to record songs. I mean, Calypso will tell you have no returns on Calypso. No returns. I mean, to me, the only person that likely to get some return on Calypso is the winner. The winner of the Monarch. The rest of Calypso, and basically, they are investing the hard money with no guarantee of returns. I mean, that is the reality. So here is it. You have to understand why people will be very aggressive. And aggressive not in a bad way, but of course, be assertive maybe in terms of the pursuit. Right. In competition, right? And they would pull out all their stops to ensure that at the end of the day, I am out as the winner. As a matter of fact, Godfrey, not just the winner, I have seen a lot of Calypsonian because it has been a wrong setting up, in terms of props and so on for Calypsonian. And they invest a lot of money that they don't even get it. So, for example, I was having a conversation with Eddie Sunday night. I said, Eddie, watch, listen to me. The smart thing to do, the only thing you guarantee in the finals is your appearance fee. So pitch your presentation around your appearance fee. At the end of the day, you invest thousands of dollars, and there's no guarantee you're going to break even because it's above, of course, what you guarantee you're going to get in the competition. And a lot of guys say, look, I win this people, I win this person, and then you find people say, Calypso, I'm bad pay. But that's what it is. So we have to get to a place. And I mean, there are other things that I wish that even corporate union can come a little more in terms of the support of Calypso, and that's my honest truth about it. But I really admire the Calypsonians who come year after year. Yes, in my tent against your tent, we might be competing, but I admire the Calypsonians who come year after year. And you can guarantee, there are guys who have been singing for how many years and they have never had a break, consistently, irrespective of what the result may be. So you have to admire that. And we have to ask, okay, what can we do? How can we come together to offer greater support, for Calypsonians? We have to look at that. So Godfrey, I understand fully as to how people see this, but of course, I am there for Calypsonians, for the art form growing, and that's what I'm here for.
Right. Another question before we bring back Val. All that you said there, and these are things that we've discussed, and we try to get a sense from Calypsonians and other guests on the program how they feel about, the competition. Because the truth is, you are so correct. The real returns comes from that competition, and so you find that in a lot of cases, some Calypsonians probably fare well, and others, keep struggling year after year after year. Based on that, do you think then that the competition is actually hurting the art form? And I'm speaking here holistically.
No, I agree, Godfrey. I agree, because And sometimes the sad reality, the only thing we see sometimes is to increase the top price money. And not seeing that we need to increase across the board. So in other words, to me, in anything, Godfrey, whether it's sports, culture, the finalists should be the best of your lot. And just being a finalist, you should be rewarded. You see what I'm saying? So even if I'm not in the first three, but at least the gain should be fit that someone in the finals. And we have to begin to look at the thing that way, right? So that people can feel, okay, look, I'm going there, I am assured. Because listen, you want people to come out, do their best, and not to present themselves in the art form and the night. Because if the Calypsonians come and do the presentation well, the quality of your show go from 10 to 0 in short order. So you have to ask yourself, where are they getting, the monies to purchase the outfit, to get themselves ready, to even get whatever accompaniment they may need. It's sometimes to get the right back vocals, and the back vocals are not free. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't be paid, because of course they're working hard as well. Remember, at the end of the day, if you have 10 Calypsonians and they're singing 2 songs, they are singing 20 songs. So I am not saying in any way that they shouldn't be rewarded, but I'm just saying that the main act, so in truth and the fact, Godfrey, unless we could structure the competition differently, it is indeed. As a matter of fact, it's the competition that has us that has us where we are now. That you hear fellas say, look, I'm not singing again because I feel I get so much raw deal, and all of this. And while some might be justifiable, but at the end of the day, one man to win the competition unless you have a tie. So we have to begin to look at that and see how we're going forward. But I wish that we could give Calypsonians, a little more reward to keep them going. And maybe not to keep them going, just to sustain them, because they are going anyway. If you know what I'm saying. So it's about something that they can say, somebody said to me last year, I sacrificed time, my family time, and so on to be there and feel cheated. And I guess everybody would have a similar story. But at the end of the day, people do give up a lot of things, make serious sacrifices, and sometimes the return is not what it is. So my humble solution is that we can make the finals a finals where once you get to the final, you should feel that you can be rewarded. So in other words, yes, I will go for the ultimate prize, but even if I don't get there, any finals, I'm not just talking about Calypso, whatever competition you have,
right?
The finalists should be treated, as the best of the lot.
Right.
Well, yeah. So I certainly agree with you, Elvis. I mean, I have another question to throw at you, but start with this one. I think that what you're saying, we live in a society and politically where, I mean, first past the post, right? I get the votes, and I may not even get the majority of votes, but in the various counties and so on, I win. And so I win the election, and I take the top prize, and the same thing with all the competitions. And you're saying that the model should change, where that you win the final, whether it's 10 or 15, and then we should see a sort of distribution of the reward for people thing. So that in order, and I'm just saying that in order for that to happen in competition, then it has to happen in our politics.
Let me just start before you finish. I don't want us to say, I'm not advocating in any way that we should take the prize money that we already have and try to distribute it. I'm talking about adding more to it.
Well, of course, yes.
I'm clear with that. I'm clear about that, so that we have more, and we see that these are the best, and they need to be probably rewarded, if I want to use that word, so that they can further develop themselves and develop the product. Because part of what is happening is that the Calypsonian regionally would not invest as much in their product, so that because all they see before them is the limitations of home, the space that they live in, right? But what they actually are creating is bigger than just the competition at home. So that if there's a way that you could invest more into it, then this product could go a lot further. So from the outset, one needs to see that the Calypso production as any other product. Just as you can make a shirt fabric in Grenada or in Trinidad, and it can sell anywhere in the world. The musical product is no different, or whether it is story or play, it's no different if we can put the energies into it and see it like that. So I think those things are critical. I'm glad that you touched on it. And something you said earlier on, I want to go back to. You said that a lot of the times the judging is subjective. How can we not have it so subjective? You have a rubric before you have the criteria, and I guess if you bring people in who understand a lot more of what they are judging, then it will be less subjective. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, certainly that's what you say is spot on. While we do understand and appreciate it is subjective, we still have to work towards getting to that place where the entire panel, can, even the subjective process, because that should help it to be a little more objective, you understand, if you're consistent. So what I suggest, though, and it's something that not has been practiced in the way we want to, the best way to hone the craft of judges is to have them into practical session consistently and discuss it. What happens? So, for example, whether you get, a number of, and it's not the ideal, because sometimes you get visual and still you don't get everything that you want. But it makes sense to get to see what the judges are thinking in their head. If you sit down and you practice and then you share scores and you defend your score, you will help to learn, because you see things that people do not see sometimes. So you have to be able to look at that, the practical experiences, and then you have discussion, for growth and development. So the most you can do get there, you have to be exposed and be trained, as you go along, to ensure that you're getting this thing right. So, for instance, and I've heard people talk about it, and I must say that that's how I got in. But the fact is, I see the merit in when people said, look, or you could do a few workshops and then you're judging. I mean, that is justifiable. You do a few workshops and then you're on the finals, right? You're judging finals. For example, I've known people who you go to judge, and for example, let's say a soca monarch, for example. when you have a massive crowd, the biggest crowd you would see. How do you match up along that? In terms of some people get a row, and when they get a row and the crowd go on, you sway all the numbers one side.
Yeah.
And I remember that I said, listen to Calypso, Godfrey, let me share that one with you. I remember a time listening to Barbados, and Black Pond at the time had a very popular song. And I remember one of the commentators saying, well, the man win the crowd, so he win the crown. He didn't win though, but I remember that phrase and it stayed with me. The impact, people judge impact, some of them are not really what is happening. So Val, I think what we need to do is to really practice, be critical of each other's work, and then willing to learn, because you can't be someone not willing to learn, and that is why I feel sometimes even having a responsible or mature dialogue, even with calypsos and judge, where you can look and listen to be critical of each other's work. I think you can get, somewhere to that, because you can. In other words, let me tell you this. I always tell people, you can be in judge, you can be egg in Rockstone dance. If you're a judge, you have to be able to hold your end and be confident in what you're doing. And if you don't have that, you're not fit to be a judge. You understand? And that's why I said to you earlier, people being consistent, right? I give you a joke here, and I remember, and it's truth. I remember a Calypso said to me, well, look, you give me that score, and I remember the score, you give me 65, but that person gave me 80, and that person gave me whatever. Fine, okay. Right? And I laugh. But that particular judge, as far as I know, was scoring everybody 75 and 80. Mm-hmm. So you have people who score high, and so everybody, you just look at the score, because remember, Godfrey, move away from looking at the broadsheet. Remember, once you had the broadsheet, so you see how everybody score. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But no, the Calypsonian you have your score, and maybe the 10th, maybe you will get the 10th score. But when you never look at that level of analysis. You just see, okay, well, look, I give you that and I give you that. And I've seen things where, Godfrey, and I'm sure you've been around Calypso for a while, where you might see scores, but that doesn't change the position. I have seen, somebody score 75, but the winner still remain the winner and the entire score sheet. So that 75 for you is the winning score, and somebody might have 86 as the winning score, but the winner doesn't change, if you understand what I'm saying. So I have seen all of that. So the fact is, as I said, we need to understand and do this thing. If you want to be good at this, you have to be involved. We have to invest a lot of time and energy to be good. Because at the end of the day, we talk about all of this. And why this competition? I don't know, you could just take somebody's craft, somebody's creation, and just feel you just want to be just totally subjective or just a bias and score the way you want to score. That to me is unacceptable. At the end of the day, you want to make sure, as I said, you should be able to defend your score. And you could defend your score in anybody you give you, so you should be able to defend your score. Mm-hmm. Right? You may not agree, but you could defend your score. Right? And the person might develop an appreciation and respect for you. Right? So those things to me is critical. Right? And you must not see it as both judges and Calypsonians must not see it, and so artists must not see it as, oh, I am against you. But we should try to learn from the process. Learn. While you're not a judge as an artist, but you must understand the process sufficiently. Right? While you may not be an artist, but you must understand certain fundamentals. Right? In terms of an artist and what they put out. And you have to understand the component, because it's much more than sitting down for 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 8 minutes based on level of competition and just applying scores, but you have to be able to realize this, and you can only get good at it by practice. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The more you practice, the better you get at this, right? And feel confident sharing.
Right.
Elvis, do you think that there in Calypso, in the main, that there is a lyric bias? So that you have lyric, you have melody, you have presentation and diction and so on. But I have a feeling that lyric somehow there is a major bias in just hearing the lyric, even if the melody is not good, or somebody would have a very good melody and good lyric. But because this lyric is probably more political or social commentary, it is scored higher than somebody else who has a particular song. I mean, I remember Shadow singing, and so I use that Trinidad example, Shadow singing "Poverty is Hell," and went really well, and wasn't included at all. You know, the judges clearly overlooked him, and I mean, some judge said it wasn't a calypso. So they threw him out of the semi-final or final, you know. Only, I guess, years later to recognize that it is really a classic calypso. So that because I guess it is so musical at the same time, sometimes it gets overlooked. What is your feeling on that?
I want to concur with that, because I've heard there are people who feel that sometimes political calypso, especially strong presence of political calypso, is calypso. And they feel that if your lyrics weak, man, you're singing that because they expect to have a strong social or political commentary. And to me, especially political commentary get a lot of bias once you compose well, you know, and you might have the social commentary coming along. I mean, I don't go humor because humor is not the easiest of calypso to write. People feel it's easy to write, but it's not the easiest of calypso to write. But you find people tell you, if you listen to even the audience, they will tell you what, that man are real lyrics. Mm-hmm. And it's because the man sing a political song, right? And it's topical. And not just the political, but also what is topical, you know? And you find also Val, in the Georgian sometimes, based on the person's style of writing, you know, language, the use of language. Mm-hmm. Somebody that fly over a lot of people's heads, somebody you miss it. Mm-hmm. You understand? Altogether. So the thing is that you have to know a lot of things. But I agree with you fully that lyrics, you know, might tend to, and sometimes you look at, you know, scoring where people might just score lyrics and everything high. Okay, lyrics good, everything else good. You understand? Yes. So we have to begin to look at this and realize that there are different components that you're judging. Mm-hmm. You understand? And not get carried away, you know, just by what. I mean, I'll tell you something, Godfrey and Val. I have been around, I mean, there are a lot of people who I judge who I have great respect for. Irrespective of what people may say. There are times, I mean, even when you have the best of the cut of the high and the low, you still some time, you know, it can be swayed, and there's no question about that, mm-hmm. right? Because, for instance, I tell people, if you have a situation where two persons score you 96, and 96 must remain, there's only one to go, you see? So the bottom line is, yes, we do have situations, but I must say, during my experience, as everything else, I don't think there's ever a dull moment with judging. I think even the best of what you might kind of as a cohort of judges, they face with stiff criticism. But I must say that I have learned a lot from the colleagues I work with, and there are some even in the craft that I have great respect for. Yeah, great respect, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you something, Elvis. There's a culture when it comes to judging, you know, and probably in almost everything. And the culture is simply two words, you know. They thief. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Listen to me. And it's part of the thing. And if a calypso competition goes and you did not hear they thief, guarantee that competition ain't good. They had to thief. If they ain't thief the competition, it's good. It's a culture. It is a culture. But you know, I am really happy that you know you went through some of these things in detail, and I hope as we get closer to Carnival, we'd like to have you back to sort of discuss the criteria of judging, because as you spoke a bit there about lyrics, and I mean, bang on target. bang on target. I can recall some years ago, it was at the semi-final. I think it was Black Wizard who did that song. I think it was Bonanza. That song about Trinidad and Kamala Prasad and all of that. And Wizard was using his musical accompaniment was a nice little chutney mixed with, the Kaiso and everything. And we're walking back, and a group of fellas talking, and I heard one of them say, "Man, Wizard didn't know melody, man." And I'm like, okay. All right, and you get to realize that clearly people really don't understand these things. Now you're singing about someone of East Indian origin, and you blend their kind of music with the calypso, and then the comment is, "Well, that person had no melody," and you are correct when you speak about if the lyrics is not political, then you don't have lyrics. And I think it's important that people get an appreciation for what these things mean and how the judges actually go about, adjudicating. And we might find things change a little bit. But we have to talk a bit about your tent, but I want to ask you one more question. I don't know if Val have anything. And we've spoken about rewarding Calypsonians, which is very, very important, and I support that 100%. But there's another aspect of it. Of course, rewarding them, it does require money, and it takes me to the question of getting people back into the tents, into the shows, including the March Grand, everything. It is an area where we have been suffering badly for the past couple of years. For some reason, we've not been able to get people back into the tents, back into the March Grand, back into the shows. I would love to get your take on it. Why is that happening, and how can we start the change?
But Godfrey, we have to first of all analyze where we are and how things have changed. Because you will appreciate, and I told Val will appreciate, that remember in the March Grand when we had a lot of people, there was no soca monarch, first and foremost. So when you go to the March Grand, you get your second round calypso, who will take you to the Juve.
That's right.
Right? So you get warm up, as we say, for the Juve. And let me just say this, Godfrey, you remember, we talk about lyrics and Val talk about lyrics and influence, but in those days too, a man who had two nice social commentary, it was hard for you to get into it.
Yeah, you must have a party song.
You come with something party, fiery in the second round, and you were judged in that kind of way as well. So I think we must first of all come to that reality that things have changed in that. The other thing, Godfrey, is this, where we started earlier, in terms of calypsos going throughout Grenada, lengthening the calypso season. Of course, you do that if you call for money. You remember calypso tends to go to Caracou.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You understand? So here you're touching almost every, and then it's one of the things I think I would love to see come back, Godfrey, and I know a man like you would love that, is the clashes of calypsos tent.
And let me just add, Elvis, the crowning of the tent king.
Yeah, well, I'm going there too. Mm-hmm. So all of that, right? So you have the clashes of the tent, right? And then of course you have your king of the tent. And also you have to begin to realize to make the thing look as though it's supposed to be a year-long thing and not just calypso because every year the season getting shorter. You understand? And of course, corporate, while we have to be innovative and creative to get people to come out, because Godfrey, you do your show off-season and people come out to calypso. Mm-hmm. So my point is this: how do we continue to sustain that? Right? How do we continue to sustain that? Now, the other thing I would say as well, and I give all praise to even some of the musicians who still want to play calypso. not many musicians want to play calypso. So you find now our extending of people who play in for more than 1/10, especially the brass section. But you remember Godfrey back then, tent and band was one and the same thing.
Yep.
I remember when I was around this, what they call it, VAT 19 All Stars. TR7 Plus was the band.
Yeah.
The band was, and you go back and look at all of the tent had a band aligned to it, right? So there was ownership, there was an appreciation, there was a family affair. So I'm not saying that we should go back there, but what do we do to mirror those activities to get people involved, to get people realize, because mind you, while we say corporate union must come on board, remember they're into business. So if you do have patrons, who is investing?
That's
you have to appreciate that. So we have to come to a place where we have to realize, listen, how do we sit down, be innovative as to how we really get people to get back that appetite for calypso. And it can take some thinking, it can take some work. But I don't believe all is lost where that is concerned. And those things we touch on, if we can get a longer tent season, we can do the clashes. And the clashes doesn't have to be full tent. The clashes could be section of the tent. You understand? And then you have your crowning of your king in your tent. Because sometimes I know how much that do for Calypsonian. Because there are times when, like all lost, and you feel they didn't make the semifinals, but you still look forward to the crowning of the tent. So you feel, well, listen, I still have something to go with, even though it's just bragging rights. But I feel you, and I think I am equally disturbed about, the low turnout, people going into the shows, and after. And listen to me, I heard both Neil and Scholar said that. The fact is that it's not easy to sing to empty chairs.
It's difficult. Very, very, very difficult.
So you don't give out your best, because at the end of the day, you want people to connect. You are connecting. You are communicating. And if you are communicating, you want to get a response. A chair can respond to you. A bench can respond to you. So to me, that is what we need to look at. And I always say kudos to those people who continue to go for years. You understand? And year after year, they would come. So how do we get others to continue? And if we can fix those things, greater incentives for Calypsonians. And Godfrey is not just you see, we look sometimes at the money side of things, but even incentive in kind can also help.
Yeah.
Right? Because Godfrey, when they was giving the car as part of your prize money, you see the kind of vigor and energy and everything. Man pull out all his stops, men creative to get everything going. So you have to find, because while yes, you need money, but there are some things that somebody might need at this time. There are Calypsonians who are really struggling. They just like the thing and they sing it.
Yeah.
But if you ask them what I have to show for it, is nothing really. How can we do something? What can we find innovative ways? Because a company may not be able to give you 15,000, but they might give you something of value that you can give, and that will be appreciated. So these are some of the things that we have to look. And we're not shot, Godfrey, on creative ideas in Grenada. We are not shot. I always reference that. Larry would always remember that. I remember many years ago, Larry did a presentation to us at Marshall House. And he did that in terms of the ticketing structure. And I could never forget that. Presented that. And I don't sure if you remember I was there, because I was no big Calypso man at the time, but I used to follow the thing at Jumbie. And I remember he presented ticketing structure as to how, and I remember Larry saying, watch, you can go to Panama for $5, because how he structured the ticket. And that might be something that we can do to help to get people to come.
Right.
So you look at our entire carnival product, and not just about, because, okay, so I'm going to go get the crowd. People love Queen would go. But at the end of the day, Godfrey, you have a package. And you might say, boy, I ain't going pan, but you might say, partner, watch, you love pan. come. You understand? And to me, as long as we don't look at the thing in that way, a whole carnival experience, we are not going to get it. So those are the ideas we have to bring to bear as well. So you can, it is affordable to get people to come out. Even the thing that I found kind of strange is that even at some of the competitions, how do you treat Calypso in like the semifinals and so on? I think Spice might start looking at that. They have not been very consistent. I think over the years people try. But you have Calypsonians say, well, I can't afford to buy tickets, so I can't go. You understand? When to me, the mere fact you enter the competition, you should be guaranteed attendance to the semifinals and the final show.
Definitely.
Right?
Definitely.
Because, and not just you, but you and your significant other, whoever that person may be. Right? Because you see, Godfrey, when you do that, you have an appreciation. The Calypsonian get to sing to an audience that they feel motivated, Even the Calypsonian get to appreciate. Because, we talk a lot of things that we don't see here. A lot of people don't watch nothing until they look, that man losing or that man win. That man should have win, and they don't even watch the show yet. You understand? So my point is, you get them to go out and appreciate, what. And if it's that the little dignity you could treat a Calypsonian with, we should. Right? We should. So I believe those little things, it may sound kind of minute, but those things can help us to really develop a strong appreciation for the art form and get people back there. The other thing in the wider context that we need to do, Godfrey, I know there was an attempt before. We need to seriously look, and you might say, well, that come into my chair. We need to look at how the Calypso incorporated in our school system. Is something that we need to look at. That's where you get an appreciation for it. And if it's part of our culture, we should know it. And we should put it in a structured form, because I know there were attempts before to do that. We just need to sit down and look at it and say, listen, this is part of what we want to do. How we sustain this, develop appreciation, develop love for it. So in other words, very early, people are introduced to the craft.
Yeah.
And you can choose wherever you want to go, whether you want to be in the costume design side of it, whether you want to be in the production side of it, whether you want to. You are going to look at those things. So there are many facets of this, Godfrey. Godfrey, because you have been doing some production yourself. It's a whole different kind of thing. You understand? So we can get people involved, right? So you don't have to be on the stage, but there are a number of things you can do. Let me give you a joke. I just say that there. And Godfrey been doing it for a while. How much apart from, may God rest the soul. How many young MCs you coming through in Calypso? You understand? All praise to Senator and the guys who have been doing that for years and still very good at it. But the fact is, what happened? And I show these guys are willing to teach some of the young people, right? So we can't just look at just that aspect, but every aspect must be considered, right? If we want to put a product out there, and so we promoting a product, we look at every facet of that product.
Interestingly, interestingly, Val, was it this week we spoke about having a couple MCs on the program to talk about it? Definitely. Gentlemen, look, we've been talking here and the time has been going, and so we may have to leave that part of it for a moment, because the tent is opening its doors this weekend. Elvis, we want to hear about that. The second tent to open its doors last Saturday. Kaiso Bars opened their doors.
Kaiso Classic Calypso tent. As it is said that we performed last year under the Roots brand. Right, and we decided to transition into Kaiso Classic, so we see where the roots grow into branches and stems, and now it's to Kaiso Classic. It's something that we wanted to do since when we started last year. The management come on board, but we came and put kind of late, so we had to just go with the structure that's there. But the truth be told, the cast has not changed you know. We have, apart from Young Song, Move On, but the rest of the cast remains. So we have 16 Calypsonians.
Excellent.
We have quite a diverse group of Calypsonians, success and otherwise, because we have the current monarch, that is Innocent. We also have 2 other monarchs inside there, in Rootsman Kelly and Sour Serpent. We also have Sheldon, who has been around Calypso and been a soca monarch winner. You know, so we have that we have him as well. We have Croqueta. Croqueta been a veteran for many years around that. Yeah. I have this year Small Axe Little Bricks, so I have Miniax, that his daughter.
Right.
You know, with us. We have Royalty. You know, Royalty, so I don't think she no longer attached to the police band, but she was there. Top Cat.
Right.
We have Denson Lewis. Jack Glory, old veteran, have been consistent. That's what I tell you. Have some people who have been around.
Yes.
You know, Grenada Michael Jackson, of course, is somebody we have. I want to also signal very thing we have Shamak. And people would know Shamak last year.
Soca, yes.
And Shamak have serious potential when it comes to Calypso. I mean, I like his spirit, I like his attitude. It's something that he wants to do, you know, and I think there's a lot in store for him, you know, as an artist. I have Soca Ray as well, who is has been there. He's one of the guys, Godfrey, who love this thing, you know. You know, Soca Ray had his Calypso since last year, around maybe November, December. You know, he loved this thing, you know, and always singing and getting. So you have all of these guys around, I mean, working hard, you know, and see how we can go forward. I am still waiting on Robert White to confirm. I know he's on as well, you know. And mind you, Godfrey, last year, Robert was I was looking for Robert to rally into the semifinals, you know. But Robert felt he wasn't ready with the second song, so he said, nah, man, I can't go through that. But I mean, Robert is a force to reckon with and brought to the fore a lot of different facets of him as well.
Yeah.
You know, so the tent has that, you know, kind of variety.
Is Superstar with you as well? Is Superstar?
No, Superstar is not with us.
Okay, all right, yeah.
So we have, you know, I want to make sure that I have everybody on board, but at least, you know, I am satisfied, Godfrey, with what we have before us. The material coming from the tent is very impressive, very creative.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I could boast of that. You know, people coming to the show would get a very wonderful show. You know, there's a lot in store for patrons to come out and enjoy, you know, good Calypso. I am happy with the composition, you know, of the guys. I think they put in some work in terms of what they would want to see. It's up to them now to come out, you know, and improve and what they're going to do as you know the competition gets closer. But I have very high hopes for the tent, you know, in terms of what they offer the public, you know, and I am optimistic as well in terms of what as we go to the end, you know, and see how we can move through. So we have also I also have Mr. West, but Mr. West making a comeback.
Right. Yeah, excellent.
So I have a lot of entertainment as well, you know, in that. So I've been to the rehearsal. I think we are doing well. The band is tight. The Back in Time band is the one that is playing for us, and I am very happy with the progress that I'm seeing with the tent.
Actually, I've heard some of the
Calypsos. I know we'll be a force to reckon with.
Yeah,
I can tell you that. Yeah.
Well, I've been listening to some of the Calypsos. Kelly has a nice one. Woman, I love that. Serpent, The King is Innocent. I mean, that's a classic. You know, and there's some. You know, I haven't heard. Well, I got Michael Jackson. I haven't listened all of his songs yet. Neutral is with y'all.
Yes, neutral. Oh, you see, and let me tell you, neutral. I was surprised. Neutral did a little soca last year. I saw him first time. I know him from since the days of primary school because my original community where I'm from, and he's part of that. And I was really happy, to see him as a young man that maybe you thought would really gravitate to soca, but decide to do calypso. And I was like, "You sure?" He said, "Yeah, man, I want to see calypso." So I said, "You know what? And I was happy for him as a person, somebody I know. I know for many years. So I was happy to have him as part of the cast, and there are good things in store for him as well, going forward.
Fantastic. So the opening is this Saturday, yeah? Tell us about
Right. So we open at Las Vegas at the Hard Court, right? And we start the show at 7. I think we have an error on one of the flyers, but really it's $20. I mean, and you're getting a lot of money, a lot for the $20, a real treat. So people should really come out and be part of that. So you come there and you will get, of course, a top of the line show, backed by the Back in Time band, song system by Wagati. So at least we expect to see a lot coming with time. We just want to encourage patrons to be part, of the launch. Come and listen some judge for yourself. Come in and judge for yourself. Listen some very wonderful calypso. And I'm not just saying this because I'm part of the tent construct, but at least I am satisfied. And I'm not somebody that is easily pleased about things, but I am satisfied with what I'm seeing coming out of the tent. Croqueta has 2 nice songs. I like and funny. Croqueta was one of the guys I could sit down and you'd focus on them. But Croqueta said, "Listen, March, manager, I feel like doing, I don't do that." I said, "Well, it's long and right." And everybody said to me, "Watch, I take your advice, And I was happy when he sent me the song. I said, "Yeah," because I know he's someone that can produce, top quality material.
Croqueta has gotten as high as second place. In fact, the year he came second, he almost won the crown. I think the point difference was minimal.
Minimal. Yeah. So I might keep telling me, I remember he told me a couple of years ago, how I lost that point, and he was like that. So I mean, he's a serious contender. So as I tell you that, come there. We are going to put on a real nice show for patrons. So we ask them to be part, of that, set up that construct. And I encourage all the calypsonians to come out there and give the public a treat, right? Be themselves, and come out. And I'm saying everyone should come because I know anybody who comes to that show would not be living there dissatisfied. They would not be living there dissatisfied. I think they would be pleased as to what, they are getting. And it's something that we try to do, is try to push, a certain kind of a quality. And you can't beat us for variety, God. I could put that down. You can't beat us for variety in terms of the tent. No, I can't beat it. I put in that out for any other tent.
Well, I mean, what I can say, some of the names that we're seeing there, Val, there's definitely quality. Rootsman Kelly is a former two-time Calypso monarch. He's always in the top 3 there. If he ain't win, he comes second or third or wherever. So Serpent as well. He's a former monarch and he's always in that top tier there. Well, of course, Innocent is defending. Croqueta has been up there as well. Sheldon Douglas, I think he had gotten as high as third place 1 year. Elvis, I think the year he came and he did, was it X them out and
I know you had a third second. I know you had a
third place here. That one, yeah. Then he's a former 3-time Soca Monarch, a road match. So you have some good quality. So definitely I have to agree that you do have some variety there. Top Cat is quite an artist. He's into Soca, he's into groove, he's into Kaiso as well. So I think, and the young guys, I'm quite happy to see some of the young guys getting involved. So I'm actually looking forward to the opening on Saturday.
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah,
it's actually. Go on, Val. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I like the mix. I mean, I haven't heard about Croqueta in many years, so it's good to know that he's still around, and also Sheldon.
Yeah.
And then of course you have Rootsman and others, younger ones. So quite a nice mix. I also find it very interesting that Robert is singing. We were talking about MCs earlier on, and Robert is our in Legends, our person with it. And now Robert is singing calypso, and you say you almost made it into the finals and so on.
No, Robert is good. No, trust me, Robert is good.
I wasn't aware that Robert was singing.
Yeah, super talented. I remember he jokingly said last year, look, for the first time a man had to introduce him on stage, he had been introducing men all the time. So he had to be introduced, by someone. I mean, I know that he have not been rehearsing the way he's part to, because I think he's part of the team to go carry Festival. So I know he has been preoccupied with other things, but I mean, I'm happy to have these guys, around the 10th construct, and not just as Calypsonian, but they can also mentor.
Yeah,
because Robert has a lot to offer when it comes to not just Calypso, but generally in terms of the art form and culture.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's good to have him around, And what I see is that, what I love, when we go to rehearse, and the group of the group of artists we have at any given time, they would sit there and they would give credit where credit is due, even their own artists, and they would say, well, no, you could change that, and I love that, because it shows that while they understand that it's a competition, but they want to see the overall quality, of the product, and I think that is something that I really appreciate, from them. So as I said, we look forward to really having a wonderful show, and I know we can. The audience will feel pleased with what they're hearing. Come to enjoy good calypso.
Right. Let me ask though. So you open on Saturday. What's the plan following that? Well, we know the judging would start early July. Do you and I know it's difficult, but in terms of maybe two or so other shows before judging, or even one after, what's the plan?
We hoping to do, because our thing was to get 4 shows done, including a show after Carnival, right? But I'll tell you what the challenge we have, and Godfrey, the challenge is venues. The challenge is venues. So I am still trying to sort out some of the venues that we really want to have shows, so I'm not going to say anything about them. What we do know, we judge on the 22nd of July.
22nd,
but the thing is that, but I still can't tell you where yet, because venues have been a challenge. And while I may do a partially open show for lunch and so on, I can't do that when it comes to judging.
No.
I have to make sure that I have the best venue to judge.
Yeah.
So that's my major challenge. And then the thing is that I feel St. David's, St. Andrews, St. Patrick's, they have this diehard love for calypso.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. And sometimes, I would love to do a show, for example, in St. Patrick's. Yeah, I would love to do a show in St. Andrews, because that is we giving, a treat to the people that we know is diehard. But
right,
you know that?
Right.
Diehard calypso
people,
right? I mean, I have been around calypso. I could tell you, who are the people you've seen in semifinals. I could tell you where I've been sitting for the last 5 years, that kind of thing. So right? I mean, you have some in Guava as well, but that these are things, and you want to be able to service these people, bring it closer to home for them, let them get appreciation, as to what is happening. But it's sad that you don't have, the venues, the kind of quality venues, because long time we used to do schools, but now we realize the acoustic in schools is very poor.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you don't get the quality that you want out of those venues. But our thing is to really, we're working hard to see how we can really spread the love, to different parts of Grenada in terms of in the short time that we've had. But we really would like to do that. And one of the things that we hope to do is to really continue after Carnival, see if we could do, and it doesn't have to be a big show, but you have just an idea, in just a small space, you can bring people to appreciate and love Calypso. Just like you have, Godfrey, a lot of people know, like karaoke, around the country. If you can have something where even just once a month, you have something Calypso, so all of that will help to bring the vibes back, and get young people involved, get people who have gone dormant to get an appreciation for Calypso. Because, well, God for you on the radio, and because that's maybe the best hub to listen to Calypso now, because people even have the resources to record Calypsos before.
Right.
So the few Calypsos you're getting, you could count on your hand who you have, right? Because people ain't going through the rigor of saying, let me do a Calypso. So what you find here is that you have to bring the Calypso to them.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to bring the Calypso to them.
Yes.
And there is a rich repository as well when you go to them, because you get a lot of ideas, to get, topics and themes for songs. So it's something that I really wish that we could get to do, and that would make me feel really good if we can really bring Calypso to different parts of Grenada.
Yeah, definitely.
That we can get an appreciation for.
Right, yeah. Val, anything you want to ask Elvis before we, because we almost...
One, to deal with the tent, who is the leader of the band? I know you call the band, but who is actually the front man?
Yeah, Adrian Mack. Adrian Mack is the leader.
Mark is the leader.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
All right. So Mark there, and Mark has pulled a guy. So Elvis, I can't. We were talking about probably the tent and audience and so on. So I have to ask you this question, maybe a bit subjective, but is the Calypso output at present comparable with probably yesteryear?
I would say, I say no, and I tell you why I say no, because before we had guys who were really good at the craft, whether you like it or not, they were good at the craft. Yes, you might have a lot of, based on where the music is done, and then there's a subjective as well, because one may argue that maybe you had better music accompaniment before, right? And one may say no, based on where you go. Even the studio output, based on where you go, right? And funny, I'll tell you this. We went to that, the launch of Source Up and celebrating its 20 years. And if I tell you something, the two guys who, to me, and not to take away anything from Big J and Source Up and that really gladdened my heart, were three. And the night was Squeezy, Darius, and Smallies.
Yes.
And them guys came there, and I said, boy, watch, a man said to me, boy, Squeezy and Squeezy songs, they're just sweet.
Definitely.
They're just sweet. And I was like, wait, that kind of music you had when Squeezy did this song, and Squeezy just take away the place. Smallies came, and Smallies was very good. Darius was very good. And I said, well, you know what? It had me thinking for a while, and I said to myself, wait, why were we better before, boy? Because I find the sweetness of the Calypso, the composition of the Calypso.
It's
a kind of hard one to really answer. Yes, we have a few good writers of Rome, but these guys were great. You can't take away anything from these guys. And I think they used to work. They had character in presentation. So for example, when a Darius comes, it's a whole show.
Oh yeah, Darius in himself is an event.
Exactly. So my thing, I appreciate the show. The show was nice. What a pity we didn't have the turnout I would expect of the show. I think generally the show was nice, but I tell you, I felt good to see Darius, Easy, and Smallies, and for me, they were the highlight of the show for me. And not taking away anything from the show, but those highlights were the highlight for me. So Val, while I'm trying to tell you no, and yes, it's kind of hard for me to say, because I have known, following Calypso, I've known we have had some real good Calypso over the years, good arrange, nice music. good composition. And there are years, as I said earlier when I started, when you had a lot, you weren't sure as to, because this man good. You know, that's what good.
Years.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I remember he had a year, I think it was Peter Humphrey, Eggies, all these guys were back. Wizard, everybody was back. Toki was back. And you're going to the match when you wonder, boy, wait, what is happening? Ever consistent.
93, yes.
So you had all these guys, and that is a show, you know, that's a show. You know, Inspector was a showman, Randy was just sweet, you know. So it's like, I mean, I'm not sure I could really say certainly that, you know, we better, because I find as a pool, I find we were great back then. I find we were great, you know, and I love a sweet calypso, and I find we were great. You know,
things have changed.
The final question for you tonight is that, what is the ideal judging panel? You know,
watch. I'll give you a preview.
That's a good one.
I was sharing that with somebody the other day, you know. And you touch on it by, maybe not directly, but you talk about, when you talk about the lyrics, right? And, you know, I wish we could have had, it would take a while. Two things. One, you to be able to defend your score. We were talking about that earlier. I mean, we did a training session a couple of years ago with Mr. Grant from Trinidad, right? And to be honest with you, that's one of the better workshops I've been to. We got all the practice. It was for a couple of days too. And I remember he put to us that the chief judge ought not to be judging on the night. What we have it now, the chief judge is judging. And you were saying you're supposed to defend your score, your chief judge. So this judge do a quick thing and realize, okay, well, why this, you know, that kind of thing. And I mean, I love it. I don't know how practical it's going to be, but I love it, right? Going back to the question though, I had this crazy idea. Boy, can we come up with judges who are going to judge based on this skill set? So just so you have the different component, you have a judge judging melody, one judging lyrics, one judging whatever, based on skill set. You may sound crazy, but you know, it's like you don't have a whole judge because you have weak components. So your strength is the melody, you're a musician, you're the melody, you're into the arts and you can judge a performance. You're the guy who have your literary devices and so on intact, so you can judge lyrics, you could understand those things. That is a crazy idea. I've been toying with as an ideal thing and see, boy, how that's going to work. And I have known people have tried different things, you know. I mean, both you and Godfrey not shot as the evolution of judges. And I was telling people, when we talk early days, when you have the GACs and so on doing carnival, you know where the judges to come from, right? And then you go with the businessmen doing judges, and then we cuss and say, boy, they can't judge the businessmen, they don't know music, then we get all musicians. It's still not making sense. And then we come from the before, you know, there was a sweet balance of melody and music accompaniment and your lines like the Wizard type. You don't see Wizard write this long poetic songs, but you know Wizard is a powerful man because Wizard know how to use and economize on words, right, in the structure of his song, right? And you know, guys go and feel, boy, I had to load it up. So some of you have problems if you're careful with your metering because you have a lot of words in the line, you know, and you have to eat up some to get to the end of the line. And then fellas were saying, boy, watch lyrics. We're judging lyrics. So it was lyrics, more poetic and lyrics. And you had the judges for that. And then when we went in, you had a whole set of teachers that judge in Calypso. I think they have quite a few now. And I remember what I would call it, that Calypsonian shall remain nameless, said, Moen, all the teachers are in charge. You know that kind of thing. So you had different era, you know, with their own limitations. You know, you had your own limitations. And maybe understandable so. You had limitations. So the thing is, how do we get values? I had a question to how do we get the ideal, you know, panel? of people to judge. It goes back again to you, your conscience, your integrity, and all of that. Your respect for somebody's, creation. All of that is something that you have to look for. You have to be able to be an ardent listener, because let me tell you something, Val. In judging, you have to have a tower of concentration, because if you miss the first few lines, you might get the total song wrong.
Of course.
You understand? Because, when especially when that Calypsonian start to build and introduce his topic and his theme. So you have to ensure that you have to remain focused. And while on that, I wanted to raise that earlier. There might be a song that have a verse, and chorus, and after everything for a long. Yeah, I have seen a song
there's a lot of those.
Stop right there, ends there. And you don't want to be carried away by judging that. Then also you have the fallacy where fellas feel, okay, a man have a nice voice, and because you have a nice voice is equate to melody. All of these things are real things that we have to contend with. So I am saying that it might be difficult to get this ideal panel that we would want to see help to maintain the integrity of the art form. But I would caution in the meantime that those who put themselves up for judging must look at the integrity, respect people's word, respect yourself, and you must be honest in your pursuit. Right? You must be honest. I mean, you can't go there and tell yourself, well, look, boy, I just have that in my mind, and you see everybody else. And I know of people, I remember I was in a workshop a couple of years ago, and the guy wasn't a judge, but he came to the workshop and he said something, Godfrey, was kind of frightening to me. He talked about when you, and I hope people not practicing it, that your first artist come on, that's your benchmark. So you judge everybody around that artist. So for example, that man comes to you, okay, that man could be Godfrey or he can't be Godfrey. That's how you're judging, going down and you're giving marks along that line. I mean, I've never seen him judge, but I know he was at the workshop and he raised that, and I was like, wow, that's an interesting one. So all of these things we have to be careful about, but I think really and truly that we still could see a resurgence of Calypso and the love. I think we still have some diehard lovers of Calypso, but we need to consistently give them, the kind of material, the kind of entertainment. It does give them value for the money, and let us help to recognize and to celebrate, of course, our Calypsonians. We have to celebrate our Calypsonians, because it's not just about, as I told you, and I'm very serious about that point. If it's one point I'm serious about, how we treat the finalists. I'm very serious about that. I think when you're in the final, you're the cream of the crop.
Oh, definitely. And that's why I think
you must be rewarded for that. Because people not coming out to watch one man. You come to watch a show with a number of Calypsonians. And all of them add to the end product of that. And you want to make sure that at the end of the day, you treat everybody at a level of respect that they deserve, because they add to the end product. And that's my wish really to see. But I remain committed to see what I can do, where I am now, to help to build the art form. And as I said, while I am now currently aligned with Kaiso Classic, I am still open for the general growth of the art form, and that's basic.
Excellent. Every time we do this program on a Wednesday evening, and I listen to the conversation, it gives me a good feeling, because it goes to show the importance of having these conversations, because so much is shared, and so much is what is shared, it's for learning and the development of the art, so I think it is so important. And Elvis, I thank you so very much for accepting the invitation, to be here this evening to talk Kaiso. And as I said, we will be calling you soon again to actually speak specifically to the adjudicating, looking at the criteria and preparation and all of that as it relates to judging. So thank you so very much again, and we're looking forward to a great show on Saturday. Val, anything in closing?
Yeah, well, I just want to thank Elvis for being present. I think he was a wonderful guest. And we learned so much, and Grenada learned so much this evening, and a lot of things were thrown out. We haven't reached a definitive point on some issues, but we raised them this evening, and certainly that is part of the process. So that at some point in time, as people of this region who love the art form, we know that there is work to be done, and each conversation helps that work to grow and become better. So thank you, Elvis, for being present.
Right.
Well, thanks both of you as well, Godfrey. I think both of you have been great, and I learned from you all as well on the ball with your questioning. And I trust that the audience was able to pick their mind a bit as so we go forward and we can add to the conversation. I look forward to whenever you're calling me again, I'm available to share. So once again, thank you very much for having me.
Definitely. So thank you. And folks, just before I go, let me just remind you, so this Saturday, Lassa just had court. The Kaiso Classic Tent will be opening its doors. All right, 16 artists, including the likes of former Monarchs, Rootsman Kelly, Sour Serpent, Reigning Monarch Innocent, people like Sheldon Douglas, Croquetta, some of the young guys, and more. So we encourage everyone to come out to the opening, support Kaiso. It's only $20. Only $20. I think that's the lowest price I've heard for a show in probably, I can't say. I didn't find I ever hear a show here for $20. I mean, so, yes, folks, $20. So come out, enjoy Kaiso. It starts at 7 p.m. And I believe that they're going to start on time. So I would advise that, folks be seated at least by 6:30 so that you can have a prompt start and you don't want to miss anything. Robert White is going to be there. And you never know, you just might get a little surprise. I might just end up on the stage and do a little thing. But you never know. And sometimes all these years, Elvis in Kaiso, you never seen a Kaiso yet. So don't be surprised. Kaiso is a strange thing, and it does strange things to people. So you never know what you might experience. So we're encouraging you all to come out this Saturday. Lassa just had court, 7 p.m. 16 artists, only $20. We're looking forward to seeing you there. Gentlemen, thank you so very much. And of course, we're looking forward to our next program come Wednesday, 8:30, when we continue to talk Kaiso. Do have a good night. All the best.